Go. So, welcome, Stacey. Stacey Ann Berry. We are so excited to have you here. If you could introduce yourself.
Thank you for having me, Alina, to join you for this conversation. So, I'm Stacey Ann Berry, the president and founder of B Stellar Group. B Stellar Group is based in Toronto. We are a government relations and professional development firm that I started 5 years ago. I am also a public policy professional in terms of my professional background. I'm someone who studied legal administration and pivoted into tech policy.
So, how did you actually, this is very interesting. How did you move from public policy now into AI governance?
Yes, it was quite an unplanned and almost, I would say, organic transition. And so
Huh?
it was really during the height of the pandemic when I was spending a lot of time just unpacking these lockdown measures and government policies. And now these corporations having to think about health policy and all these measures that, regulators were saying that they had to abide by. So I started to really do just my own research into what does this mean for our human rights? What does this mean for our mobility? What does this mean in terms of how, technology is now becoming a bit more invasive into our personal spaces and determining when we work, how we interact with each other. Then I came across the Netflix film Code Advice, which I'm sure a lot of people have seen. And then that really got me to do some research on facial recognition,
Mhm.
surveillance technology, and what is that intersection of tech in general, not just specifically AI and policy. And I had opportunities because of my research to put together panel discussions, workshops that really help people to understand what are best practices for society, what does ethics look like, and who are we helping and who are we hurting in this race for now AI innovation. And then I kind of did some upskilling with the Center for AI and Digital
Mhm.
Policy based in Washington, D.C., to help me have a better understanding of what government policy on AI is looking like across the globe, where they create an index that gives you some sense of where these countries score in terms of the metrics as it pertains to a human-centered lens to AI
Mhm.
governance. And then seeing that there isn't just one way to govern AI, it could be focused on, an AI governance that's focused on innovation in the terms of making sure that countries can be globally competitive, increase their compute power. And that's fine, but that also comes with risk. And then I completed a program with Blue Dot Impact based in the UK. And that also helped me to understand just a little bit of a deeper dive on the AI governance. And then
Mhm.
lastly, I had an opportunity to design a course with Udacity on AI governance policy and the public good. And this came about again with me, doing my research and putting together insightful presentations, engaging the community and helping them to understand, the impact of AI on society and technology in general on
Mhm.
society.
Yeah. So, you are an expert in ethics and governance, and I know you have heard, we all have heard about how do you actually design that ethical and safe AI? I mean, the concept of ethical AI is, well, there is no regulation, to be honest, right? Our sandwich might have more regulation than AI technology. And we all have heard about Deloitte. I know there was this article where Deloitte was caught fabricating AI generated research, and it cost them millions of dollars. So, what are those principles that we should use for ethical, inclusive AI? And what kind of basically, what is non-negotiable for executive leaders as they are integrating AI into systems?
Yes. So, I mean, when we think about ethical AI, it really should be centered on the principle of mitigating harms, whether it's harm to people or even the environment. But that is another part of the conversation. But it does require principles such as transparency, right? So, corporations and leaders of these corporations, in good faith, it's not legally prescribed yet, but we have like these principles that the United Nations and UNESCO and the Center for AI and Digital Policy have outlined, and they kind of share this universal best practice of ethical AI. And that includes transparency. It's really important to disclose as a company your use of AI to your staff so that people know it's being used, how it's being used. Is it being used in hiring? Is it being used in performance? There shouldn't really be the secrecy use of AI so that, people can understand, how a decision was arrived by. And so it's really important for transparency in all facets of, the corporate and public sector. And then there's an explainability component, which is really challenging because we all click I agree with these terms and conditions when we're just using in our own daily lives these AI or tech tools in general from social media. And it's not really clear what we're agreeing to and what we're giving up, right? And so the plain language is something that, a lot of groups are advocating for so that AI is in plain language in terms of the communication. And, that's really important for staying within that realm of ethics. And then, of course, informed consent. Informed consent is providing options to opt in, right? So we've all been in these meetings where people just send their AI assistant to transcribe, what's being said in a
Mhm.
discussion. But a lot of that is shared with third parties, and we don't know how that data is being used with that third party AI tool for then transcribing our meeting. And you can put your company at risk if something proprietary or certain sensitive
Mhm.
information is being recorded, but then you're also doing without saying to the other party or parties, can we use this AI transcriber for this conversation? So people should have an option to truly have informed consent so that you're clear on what the consequences. There should be permission around how our data is being used and disclosed and who has access and by whom. So those are just some of the key governance principles that, as I said, is really helpful for executive leaders to understand as they're building out their own internal policies for AI governance.
Yeah, third-party risks and use of AI tools. I actually worked with a colleague of mine where that company did use a third party. They outsourced some analytics, but they
Mm,
were not aware that the third party was actually sending their data yet to another third party. And
hmm.
they were using AI tools and technology and models not necessarily in North America, not even hosted in Canada. We're talking
Wow.
North America, not even and outside.
Hmm.
And when they found out, they found, well, what happens to our data, right?
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
now with AI, you're leveraging large language models, and these might be hosted outside, and you don't really know the intent of this. So this is
Exactly.
something, yeah, third-party risk, establishing those policies and those guidelines. I actually see that you also have a course. You have a course on Udacity about
Hmm.
AI governance and policy.
Yes.
And I can see how it's very important. Your course actually speaks about the guardrails that we
Yes.
need for
Yes.
preventing this, those risks and those pitfalls with AI.
Exactly, and to mitigate the harm. So, this is really an introduction to help people understand AI policy, the process of making policy, who influences policy, who are the different stakeholders, and then why it's important to have guardrails. So, I know those who are on the side of developing AI feel that regulation is here to stifle innovation, and you can have both happen at the same time. You can have regulation and still be able to innovate, be profitable. We've seen it in the pharmaceutical, we've seen it in the financial sector. There are strict compliance measures for those in banking and insurance, but they're still able to build profitable companies with those guardrails. And so I don't see this as being different from what has happened historically in other sectors. And
Mhm.
so in my course, I really talk about how AI can be used to amplify inequities or discrimination. It can determine, especially if there's no human oversight in the decision-making process, who gets access to loans, who gets hired, and who even gets access to healthcare is another example of really understanding the types of inequalities that could happen. And so it's important for those who are like in the STEM sector and in the very technical side of AI development to have at least a just a general understanding of AI policy so that when they're developing AI with these governance, with these pieces, with understanding the impact that it will have on society. So sometimes on the developer side, you may be just developing something, building something for it to work and for it to be efficient. That's great. But it's not often you're going to think about the impact and the fact that things aren't equitably distributed to everyone, and everyone may not have the same experience, at least from the user side of what you're
Mhm.
building. And so my course kind of helps to paint that picture so that you could understand why AI policy is important, why AI governance is important. It includes quizzes, and you also get a certificate because it's a part of Udacity's micro credentialing, and you can get access to all the other topics on data science and a deeper dive into ethical AI in their catalog of like hundreds and hundreds of courses.
Mhm. So for our listeners, we are going to have a link for you below. Do check it out. It's a course by Stacey Ann Berry, who is an expert in policy in AI and governance. And for those of you, data governance and AI governance basically not the same thing, right?
Right.
But many out there, they are basically saying, well, lumping it all together. But
Hmm.
with AI, we have got additional risks, additional considerations,
Yeah.
and we cannot use the same guardrails for AI
Hmm.
governance as what we were doing for, data governance.
Exactly. And that's like the different sectors. When we think of different sectors across society, you need to have specific regulatory frameworks, for healthcare, for finance, even in pharmaceuticals. Like there's these best practices and very specific prescribed legislation so that, again, it's about safety, it's about protecting society. And this is why we need to have that balance.
So thank you. Thank you for joining us today. If you could give a couple words for our listeners, especially for 2026, if you could share a couple of sound bites.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I think now is the time for you to become more, AI literate. Don't be afraid to embrace AI. Don't be afraid to upskill, but you want to do that with some intentionality. And so, if you're a non-STEM professional like myself, research AI tools that will enhance what you currently do to help you save time, to help you be more efficient. And it's okay to test a few tools. All tools are not made the same. And you can even use AI to do those comparison charts to see, the pros and cons. If you're someone who cares about IP and your data protection, ask those specific questions to even an AI tool to help you understand the pros and cons of different tools as it pertains to your data. Which one has better data protection, better privacy protections, and questions like that. And then, really just be open to exploring, to learn, have some fun with it. I'm someone who's constantly having to prepare, slide decks. I'm always exploring what is the best Gen AI tool for my slide presentations that will just make it easier for me and to save time or just to generate outlines. But make sure to use it responsibly because you want to make sure that you um, double check the information that's being outputted from these tools because it can hallucinate, which means it
Yeah.
fabricates and makes up information. And so, as a professional, you want to make sure you're not providing misleading, inaccurate, or false information. And just, all the best for 2026. Looking forward to our upcoming panel discussion that we're going to have on January 14th.
Thank you. It was great to have you, Stacey. And do check out the link below for Stacey and Barry, the course about ethical and inclusive AI and governance of AI. So thank you. It was great to have you.
And thank you for having me.
Thank you.